Welcome back to another episode of Emotional Nightmares Podcast. I am your host. My name is Tyler. Glad to see you guys again. And on today's episode, we're going to step away from the substance abuse for a minute. We're going to slide into the mental health, which, is one and the same. But today we have with us a special guest, an author of the book Running in Slippers, and we'll get to that. Sounds fun. I'd run in my slippers all the time. So with that, we have Angie with us. So she's going to talk to us a little bit about her mental health, her struggles, and kind of how she's overcame that. So with that, so I'm going to go off of basically when I first talked to you a little bit here. You talk a little bit about anxiety, which is something that a lot of people struggles with. So looking back, so when we're looking back, what was the first moment that you remember feeling like the anxiety was such a crippling effect?
That's an interesting question that nobody has ever asked me because when I just thought about it, I can never remember a point where I didn't have crippling anxiety. So it started very early on in my childhood.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
But then, of course, it snowballed and got continuously worse as I got older.
Okay. So, all right, so let's go this direction then. What does the anxiety feel like in your body when you're going through that? Because like you say, crippling anxiety, so a lot of people don't understand what that truly means. So what does that look like? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, and just to be clear, because I've been doing the inner work on myself, I don't really get it anymore. But when I did have crippling anxiety, it felt like, I've never had a heart attack, but that's how I would describe it. And I actually went to the emergency room several times thinking I was having a heart attack because it just felt like this huge pressure on my chest. So it was like it felt like my chest was in a vice, basically. And then also I would always be like very short of breath and feeling like I couldn't breathe. So it was just like that huge constriction feeling in my body.
It does feel like a heart attack. I've had one anxiety attack in my life, and like I went to the hospital. I was like, I'm dying. And they're like, no, you're not. You're gonna
kind of
drink
embarrassing,
water,
actually.
Yeah, it was awful. It was awful. Okay, so how does the emotional neglect shape the way you saw yourself as a child?
Yeah, and I think that's how it all started because both of my parents were extremely emotionally unavailable. And as an adult, I can look at that and be like, okay, I get it. That makes sense. And I understand what that means. And I also understand that it wasn't about me at all. But as a child, you just don't have those kind of tools to be able to interpret the situation.
Right.
So the way I interpreted the situation was I developed a belief that I didn't deserve to be loved. So then I was always, so that turned me into like this people pleaser perfectionist because I was always performing or trying to do things to earn love, which is fed into that anxiety cycle. And also my household was very chaotic emotionally. So I felt like I had to be the fixer and the peacekeeper, which again comes from like doing, like I need to do something to resolve this situation with adults, and I was just a child. So that just is where my anxiety started compounding because I had all of this. And again, it was like spawned off of this limiting belief, but I was putting like these adult responsibilities on me, and I just felt like pressure from a very young age, even though it was self-imposed.
So it's interesting that you say that, right? So when you say that
I'm saying that from an adult lens, though, obviously.
right. So
Yeah.
of course you weren't as a child sitting down like, well, you're emotionally unavailable. But when you say emotionally unavailable, right? So that it's important that we kind of emphasize on this a little bit. What do you mean by you didn't feel like people were emotionally available for you?
Yeah, so this is an interesting question because usually when people refer to emotionally unavailable, they're mostly referring to an avoidant personality type. So I definitely had that from my dad because he was an alcoholic, but he was a very passive alcoholic. So he would come home from work, sit on his recliner, and then drink until he went to bed, basically. So he was physically present in the house, but he wasn't emotionally there. He wasn't really involved in things. But then my mom, on the other hand, she was very enmeshing. So because a lot of things felt out of control for her, she tried to control as much stuff as she could. So she was very controlling. She was also very angry, which again, as an adult, I understand why she was angry. But as a child, I was like, okay, I need to like do everything perfect so I don't make my mom mad. But I learned as an adult, like having an enmeshed parent is also very emotionally unavailable because again, it's like she was just making sure my physical needs were met, like a roof over my head, food on the table, which is obviously great. But because she was so like controlling and angry and all these other things, she wasn't emotionally present for me. So I never like I don't ever remember receiving hugs as a child. I don't ever remember my parents telling me that they loved me. My mom worked a lot. And again, my dad was just kind of there. So I didn't have a lot of quality time. So there just really wasn't a connection, really. Because even like to this day, my dad has passed away, but it's like my parents never really knew like what my hobbies were. Like they never really knew anything about me because it was just my family felt like a business. We were just kind of going through the motions of like eating meals and doing all of the obligatory human being things without the emotional connection.
Yeah, so I imagine like if your dad is the alcoholic in this scenario, then I can imagine your mom trying to be the fixer of him and dealing with that alcoholism, right?
Yeah, because through an adult lens, she was totally an enabler. Because I remember as a child, I used to like look at her as the victim, but then as an adult, it's like, well, she was playing a role in it too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's easy to see that as an adult. Um,
Yeah.
so all right, so during this time, right? And so we're gonna give a little backstory. So during this time as a child, right? What are you telling yourself about your own self-worth during this time?
I think the overarching message was I truly felt like something was wrong with me that made me undeserving of love. And that's where like the perfectionism and like people pleasing came from because I always felt like, well, I'm lacking inside of me. So if I can just do the thing that makes me deserving of love, then I'll deserve to be loved. So I always felt like that was outside of me.
That's fair, right? That whole concept of look at me, help you, so love me, right?
Yes.
Okay. So trying to think of a way to ease into this, right? All right. So fuck it, we'll just go into it, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
one of my favorite things that we don't talk about, and we have to start screaming all the, trigger alerts and all this bullshit because God forbid we say the real terms, which we're going to on this
Yeah.
podcast, right? So we have suicide attempts, right?
Yes.
Um, so okay. So tell me about that. So at this point in time, like what's going through your mind that's making you want to go down that road?
Well, it was more of a chronic journey because again, I had chronic anxiety. I also was always in some kind of toxic relationship. And by relationship, it was apparent that definitely romantic relationships. But in hindsight, I can see that a lot of my friendships also were very toxic. And so when I already was starting from a place of very low self-esteem. So when you have all of these external, because again, I'm reaching for something external to prove my worth, but then I have these external things that are just continue to chip away at it. So for decades, I was like living my life in this way, like searching for something to prove my love, but then only finding things to continue to chip away. So it was the chronic journey of that. But then the real tipping point came in 2020 because of like all the lockdowns of COVID and everything. That was a huge catalyst. And then the main straw that broke the camel's back was the end of a relationship during COVID. And like in isolation, like, yeah, it would have hurt or whatever. I don't think it would have been the tipping point for wanting to end my life. But it was just like I came to this moment where, and I think we all have these moments where it's like, I can't take this anymore. When does this end? We all go through moments like this, but I was just reflecting on my life and nothing had been going well. I had been feeling miserable and unfulfilled for most of my life. So when I looked into the future, I truly did not see any hope for the future, which is such a dangerous place to be. And I think it was just the compounding effect of the isolation of COVID because there was like so much fear propaganda and anxiety, and I was feeding into all of that because I already wasn't in this mentally healthy place to begin with. And so I just had this moment where it's like, I just don't even want to be here. And so I intentionally overdosed because I was taking medication for my anxiety, but I took the entire bottle because I was just over living life, basically.
I think that's fair, right? I don't think that we talk enough about this. And a lot of people are afraid to touch this subject, especially
Yeah.
on social media platforms, because God
Because
forbid you don't say you unalived and all this goofy
I
shit.
know it's, and don't even get me started on that because
Yeah, I hate
I
it.
I would like to be speaking out more, but I feel like I can't because it is so heavily censored.
It is, and like to the point where, um, I've been flagged a million times on different social media platforms just for that reason. So I think that we need to talk about it. So there are a lot of people that are struggling. So right now, if you are
Yes.
struggling, if you're listening and you're struggling, 988 is the lifeline, right? Or by all means, feel free to message me, whenever. I don't care. Um, because we need help, and like I've been in those dark places myself, where, like I said, that's kind of how this podcast was even born. um
Yeah.
if it wouldn't have been for my cat who's running around here acting like a fool right this second, but if it wasn't for him, I probably would have went through with it, because like I'm a heroin addict, right? So for me it was, I'm afraid of the relapse. Like I don't want to relapse because like I'm afraid it won't work. So I was like, but a 38 will. I was like, so like I'll just take it out. But then I thought to myself, like I'm looking at this cat, like who the hell is going to take care of him, right?
Um,
So like
yeah.
that was like the saving grace, was this cat.
But see, but he was the glimmer of hope, and
So
that's
that's what
why
I
it
was
can be
getting
so,
to.
yeah, because
Yeah,
that's why it can be so dangerous because if you don't have that glimmer, then it's like, well, what am I living for?
right. So in my world, like we deal with substance abuse. So like a lot of times hope goes out the window, because a lot of people struggle with the addiction side of it, where you do so much damage and it's like family don't want to be here, friends don't want to be here, I'm just me, everybody's better without me, and like that's dangerous. You know what I mean? So when you're going through this, I always talk about there has to be that moment. Whenever we're going through these psychological things, there's that one click that we decide at that moment, hold on, I'm going to heal from this and I'm going to make some changes, right? So what was that moment that kind of clicked in your head that was like, oh shit, let me go?
So what ended up happening, because I did take the entire bottle, I was unconscious in my home for a day and a half. I was in the hospital for a day and a half. And then I was released from the hospital and I called a friend and I told her everything that happened. And she said to me, "It's not your time." And that was the moment where it clicked because after I got out of the hospital, I actually felt worse than I did before because I'm still in the same emotional state. And now I have all these physical symptoms because I was extremely high even 3 days later and I felt like crap. And so she said that to me, and it was so profound that I actually took a moment to think about it despite being extremely high. And because I really could have died, and I was like, but I didn't. So I truly felt in that moment that I had a purpose. I didn't know what it was, but in that moment, like to your point, like there's just like an exact moment. I just had this mindset shift because I had been a victim to my life. Like life is happening to me and there's nothing I can do about it. And this is how it is. And in that moment, I was like, you know what? How I've been living my life isn't working. I want to live it differently, and I am the one who's accountable for making that change to live it differently. And it was like truly in that moment where I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this differently now.
That was the moment. That was the
Yeah.
click, right?
Like there was a true defining moment.
There always is, right? Like
Yeah.
no matter what depths of hell we go to, um, you know, like that's one of my favorite questions to ask, like any client, anybody that I work with, or even everybody that's come on the podcast. I'll always say, there's that moment. What is that moment? Because we all go to rock bottom, and when we're at rock bottom, there's some kind of spark of light in there that says, "Hold up, I gotta change," right? And then we start making those changes, and like they're not easy. They're not easy,
No.
right? So, what did the rock bottom teach you about yourself?
It taught me like basically, and I know this sounds so cliche, and I actually hate it when people are like, "Oh, you're so strong," because I don't want to be strong. But again, like
Yeah.
before I was living my life in just such like a helpless place. Like I can't do this. I didn't feel like I was capable of doing it. But to your point, once you make that switch, it doesn't make it any easier because you still have to go through the changes to change your life. But I believed in myself. So maybe that's the way to phrase it. Like, not, I mean, I think I had the strength all along, but the difference
Yeah.
was I actually believed in myself.
I love that you say that, right? Because like that's again in our world, that's something that we deal with a lot. Because like in substance abuse, like you most people they struggle with like they drop out of high school, they're going through these things, and everybody along the lines has told them how they're pieces of shit and da 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 da. And you lose that focus on yourself and you stop believing that like I can change. And I literally just had a conversation with somebody just a couple minutes before I came on the podcast with you where they were talking about everybody's better off without them because they can't do this and that. And I'm like, but you can. And like one of the things that like we have to kind of understand is like no, like you can make these changes. It's just it's going to be uncomfortable and it's not something that you want to do, right?
Yeah.
Like it's hard. It's going to be the hardest thing you ever did, but you can do it, you know?
Yeah.
And
And that's another thing. Like no matter where you're at in your life, like you could be like at your lowest point or your highest point, there's always going to be other people outside of you telling you what you can or cannot do.
yeah,
And it is so important to like have that belief in yourself because none of those other people even matter.
yeah. I mean, that's what I tell people is like, look, I'm a junkie. If I can do all this, like, there's no reason you can't. Like,
And that's why I share my story because like and that, because you come off a certain way now, but it's like you have no idea like how much
yeah,
work I had to do to get here because I used to be a complete mess.
yeah, yeah,
Obviously, like if I got to the point where I hit my own rock bottom, it's like things were not going well. So if I could turn my life around, anyone can.
yeah, yeah, man. I was stealing light bulbs out of my neighbor's porch light so I could smoke meth. Like, you know what I mean? Like, here we are today, I got light bulbs everywhere. But so we get to this point, right? So what does running in slippers symbolize for you?
So running in slippers, the actual story, how I came up with that title, is in the introduction of the book, so I won't give that away. But in short, what it means, I live in Hawaii and we call flip-flop slippers. So it really means running in flip-flops, which is a metaphor for life because life and running in flip-flops, it could be adventurous, playful, and fun, but it can also be dangerous, painful, and scary.
Very much. So what was the most difficult chapter to write?
I actually wrote about my suicide attempt, and I haven't gone back and read it in a while, but when you write your own book, you have to read it a gazillion times in the
Right.
editing process. So every time I read that part, I would always start crying, and it was so hard.
Hmm. Did you feel so, because you got the anxiety, right? So did you feel that fear of how people would react to you being this vulnerable?
Oh, of course. I was like, I thought, like, you know how mean people are. I thought I was gonna get like, well, first of all of my worst decisions are in that book. It was in a period before I really started doing the inner work on myself. So yeah, horrible decisions all over the place. I thought I was just going to be criticized left and right. But anyone who has read the book and reached out to me, and I'm talking about complete strangers, everyone writes to me or reaches out somehow and says how relatable it is. Or I've even had people say this exact same thing happened to me. So to me, that just proves, because we were talking earlier about real life is not perfect, right? Like go on social media and you see the filters and edits. Even in real life, people will put on a front like everything is fine, but we all have these things going on behind the scenes that we're afraid to talk about. But the truth is, like, the human experience is not perfect, and yeah, everybody's nuances are perfect, like, like you, heroin, me, whatever, anxiety and everything I was going through, but we have like a very similar human experience. So that in a whole is the relatable part of it.
Yeah, I I wholeheartedly agree. What surprised you the most when you were writing this?
Just my courage to allow myself to be seen, because even now it's not I actually think it gets worse in time, because the more I heal, the more far removed I am from some of my
Yeah.
actions and thoughts in that book, and so I feel like it actually gets more embarrassing over time. But and the whole point was, like, it's not about me, it's about connecting through vulnerability. It's like, hey, this is what life is really about. We all go through shitty things, but we're not talking about this. So let's just talk about it.
So what do you say to people that are kind of in their slipper phase, right? That when they're in that phase, what do you say to kind of help guide them in the right direction?
Well, I think we're all in the slipper phase because it's like a never-ending journey. But this is what I tell people, because a lot of people ask me, like, if you could go back and tell your younger self something or change something about how you were living your life. The answer is I would not change a thing, because I think I went through what I went through because I had to. And for the same reason, I wouldn't go back and like forewarn myself or anything. But I would go back, like right before I took the pills, I would go back and give myself a hug, because in that moment, and that this is another reason why I feel like suicide is a tricky topic, because and it's hard to speak up about if you are feeling suicidal, because if you were to tell someone, the reaction from the other end is like, don't feel that way, don't do it. And that just like makes you feel even worse, because you're already feeling shitty and now someone's telling you not to feel that way. But all you really need is someone to hold space for you to feel how you're feeling. So I tell people, find a safe person that can hold space to feel how you're feeling. Because if you tell, because I don't know, I think most parents would be like, they would immediately go into that parent mode of like, don't do it, don't feel that way. And that's just not what you need in the moment. You need someone to be like, I it scares me that you're feeling this way, but I can sit here and hold space with you without like I don't need to change how you feel to feel comfortable to sit with you.
I mean, that's the key, right? Like I
Yeah.
always try to tell people, it's like it's okay to feel like you want to sit in the bathtub with a toaster.
Yeah.
Like, but it's not okay to like not tell people that because and like to tell people like I really don't need you to do nothing. I just kind of want you to sit with me and like
Yeah.
I always tell people like you want me to sit in the dark, I'll sit with you. Like that's fine. Like I don't care. Um but just don't sit there alone because once you start sitting alone, then that's when more and more you're more likely to throw the toaster in the bathtub.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, when you're alone with your thoughts, that is not a thing.
Absolutely. So, what's the glow method?
Well, so through my whole journey, I became an inner glow coach. And basically, what that means is like I went through this journey of self-loathing and suicide attempt to actually turning my life around to the point where now I love myself and I'm thriving. And that doesn't mean I don't feel anxiety or I don't feel negative things. I just don't let them affect my happiness and fulfillment like I used to affect them or used to let them affect me. But so the glow method is what I use in my coaching because it's based on this concept. We're all born with a light inside of us because you see little kids, they're running around screaming, like they do not give a shit what anyone thinks. And then we go on through life and like society or school or our family, everyone's telling us what we should or should not be. So then we start conforming to these things outside of ourselves. And that's what starts dimming our light because we don't feel like we're free to be fully expressed as we are. And that's how like these like numbing behaviors come about. Like I never used drugs, but I used to numb my feelings by over exercising and under eating because
Mm.
when there's that disconnect between your authentic self and who you're trying to conform to in the outside world, it doesn't feel good. So then you reach for something to numb your feelings. So
You're the first person to bring that up since I've
because
done.
I think we all struggle with
So,
numbing behaviors. And here's the funny thing about that. Over exercising is actually a socially acceptable way to numb. And so is like
right.
overworking. Whereas if you take drugs or whatever, it's like, oh, you're bad or there's all these negative judgments. But if someone is overworking or over exercising or doing something like that, they're actually praised, but it's all the same behavior.
So I'm a drug addict. So this goes hand to hand with us. I don't know why this is. And like, well, I do know why it is. Like I do now, but in the beginning, right? So we see this all the time, right? And I haven't talked about. We need to talk about this more. So I'm glad that you brought this up.
Yeah, so
This
let's talk
gives
about
me,
it.
yeah, this gives me some things like we got to do. So one of the things in substance abuse that you see is like everybody gets sober. The first thing they do is they hit the gym, right? Is because
Mm,
you know
the addiction swings the other way.
it goes the other way. And like I know even for myself, there was a time. And I used to work at CYS, so it's Child Protective Services where you're at, right? So awful, awful experience, right? First of all, it's a corrupt organization, but second of all, like I worked with all sex abuse cases,
Ooh, yeah, that's rough.
so I can't talk about it, right? Because they're all active investigations and stuff. So it's not like I can only talk to my boss. My boss at the time, all he does is eat chicken and drink protein and lift weights, right? So do I, right? So I'm like, all right, this is what I'm gonna do. So there's a 24-hour gym by my house. So I'm at work for 8 hours. I'm sleeping 5 hours, and the rest of the time I'm living at the gym, right? I'm overworking. I'm doing all this crazy shit, mess up my rotator cuff. And it's because this was my release. This was my way.
Yep,
And like the
that's
crazy thing
relatable.
is like me and my boss, I'd go to work and my boss would be like, "How much did you lift last night?" And like, that was our
And you kind
conversation,
of get a high off that, right?
right? And it wasn't like, "Hey man, how are you feeling?" It was, how much did you lift, right? And that's how him and I communicated.
Yeah.
And and in substance abuse, you see that all the time where everybody puts down the drugs and like now they're in the gym 24/7 and it's look at me, I'm doing great. And it's like, right, but like what are we hiding behind that? Right?
Yeah.
It took me a long time to understand that, and obviously it
And
took
a lot of people still don't understand it because
no.
again, it's like widely respected. If you have a six-pack abs, everyone thinks it's amazing. But if I see six-pack abs, I'm like, you have serious mental health issues.
Yeah, and yeah, and like like anything, there has to be a balance, right? Like I think
Yeah.
like exercise for me now, it I don't I always tell people like I don't exercise to look in the mirror. I exercise so I can sit in the dark because like
Yeah.
working out
Ooh, I
today
love
is
that.
about my mind, and it helps me, it relieves a lot of the stress and it does help with that, but I only commit myself to like 30 minutes at a time instead of like 10 hours. You know what I mean?
Yeah, same.
Yeah, and like I'm not doing it because when I was doing it, it was ego driven is all it was. And
Mhm.
so like when you do that inner work and you let go of that ego, it was now I don't have to like work out because I'm not trying to impress the man in the mirror. I could give a shit less about that mirror.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm glad that you brought that up. That's
Well, this is also a thing, people who get they're overweight and they get the surgery to like shrink their stomach.
yes, we just did an episode on that.
Oh, yeah, because
Take a
that's
tip.
also a thing because a lot of times because the food is the addiction, right?
Yep,
That's why they're overweight. So then they get the surgery and then they start doing drugs or something to numb their feelings because they're not using the food anymore. So this is, yeah, it's a real thing. Actually, is it called transfer addiction?
it is. It is.
Yeah.
It is called that.
Because I was like, there's a term for it, and obviously it's like the obvious term.
It's one of them. Yeah, there's a couple. Yeah. So yeah, you see that with food. So it's funny because like food and exercise are the two that become the main addictions for people when they stop doing the other stuff because
Mm,
the other addictions are the so-called toxic ones, right? Alcohol, alcohol and drugs are easy to identify and it's easy to say because you have like legal systems, you have family, you have all this bullshit, and you have society who's telling you
yeah.
you're a piece of shit. But on the other spectrum, to your point, like if you go live at the gym where, nobody's gonna say shit to you.
Mm-mm.
They're gonna be like, "Oh, how'd you do that?" And like if you just go eat a lot, somebody might crack a few fat jokes on you, but they're not
Yeah.
going to sit down and be like, "Oh, what's really going on?" They're gonna be like, "Oh, you should miss a meal." You know what I mean? Like all
Yeah.
that goofy shit. Um, or they just call it lazy, which is
True.
funny, and that's a whole nother topic. Um, yeah. So I am a male, right? So I don't know. I always say that because like I don't know what it's like to be a female, and I never will. Um, I'll never pretend to know. No. You can ask my fiance. I just don't understand. So with this inner glow, confidence, this inner glow that you have going on, why do one of the things that you kind of talk about from what I'm gathering with it, why do so many women chase approval instead of the authenticity?
Well, I think for women, a lot of it has to do with like the societal expectations because in my opinion, I feel like there's a standard of beauty that's imposed on women, especially nowadays with like Botox and fillers and like all this other stuff. And it's like,
And it looks awful.
it does
It
look
does
awful,
look
but
awful. From a male's perspective, it kind of looks awful.
from a male's perspective, a lot of females think it looks good.
I,
Isn't that crazy?
it's
But
insane.
again, like people get addicted to that as well because it's like because there's something going on internally. So they're trying to fix it on their face or whatever. So, and that's my whole concept, because when you're just like basking in your own self love, that just like improves your entire life. Like, for example, I'm 45 years old. I get more compliments on my beauty now than I did when I was younger. And it's because internally, this is the healthiest I've ever been. Like, by internally, like emotionally and mentally. So, like, that's my whole concept. Like, if all you have to do is this inner work on yourself, and to your point earlier, it's not easy, but it's so worth it because every single area of your life improves. But it's like nobody teaches this. They teach you to exercise and go get your Botox every month or whatever. And it's like, those are not the answers.
So what's interesting, I spoke about this actually in my first season, but I haven't talked about it since. So one of the things like, so it kind of goes into that body dysmorphia stuff,
Yeah.
right? But one of the things, like, again, I don't know what it's like to be a female, but from like my perspective as a male, um, obviously I struggled with that because like I would go to the gym a lot, right? And to me it was, man, I can never get big enough. I can never look good enough, right? I would look in the mirror
Yeah.
and just see, I'd be like, oh man, this is awful. So for me, what I did, which is awful and I don't recommend this, I am literally covered in tattoos from the neck to my ankles because it was like, like I'm wearing this, like if I have no shirt on, it looks like I
Yeah.
have a shirt on, right? Like I'm just completely covered. So it looks like a whole shirt. So it was a way. Now looking back, I'm like, I always tell people don't get tattoos because like I wish I could just remove them because
Mm.
I mean I could, but I'm not going to. I spent too much money to do all that shit. But um looking at it now is I understand now that at the time I was getting all these tattoos, it was because obviously I'm not going to go to plastic surgery, so it was
Yeah.
my way of plastic surgery, right? Because it was, now I'm just covering up with ink.
Yeah.
Society looked at that as, oh, look at that, how you got all these tattoos, this looks good, oh, I like all these tattoos. And it was like, yeah, not really. If you knew why because people would always say,
Yeah.
why'd you get that? I have no idea. There was no rhyme or reason for it. You know what I mean? Like I have dumbass tattoos also. You know what I mean? Like fish smoking a cigarette, right? There's no reason for it other than to your point, is trying to cover that up, you know?
First of all, that is like so vulnerable. So thank you for sharing. But that's also just, yeah, fascinating. The things we do as like to cover things up and just basically repress who we really are.
Yeah. Yeah, I think everybody kind of does that.
Yeah, we all have a thing for sure.
So how can you tell if somebody if if they're living in their validation instead of alignment? Does that
The
make sense?
easiest way to tell is how concerned they are with what other people think of them.
Okay.
Because one of the things I work with my clients on is this concept of, if you're focused on you and focused on being the best version of yourself, and if you're happy with your life, and if you're happy with who you are, and if you're living in integrity with your values, you honestly stop caring about what other people think, because it's like, this is my lane. I'm not breaking the law, doing anything unethical. So who cares what other people think? Because all of these society rules or whatever, they're all just arbitrary. Like, who made them up? And we're all just blindly following them. So that's like a huge part of what I work with people with. Like, make your own rules for life and follow those. Like, yeah, it can be uncomfortable because other people can't stand it if you're not, going with the grain, but who cares? It's your life.
Speaking my language. That's what I work with my clients on too, right? Like I
Yeah,
work with them on because I work in substance abuse. So what I do is I focus on what no matter what anybody thinks of you, it's none of your business, number one.
yeah,
And number two, like it has no effect on what is important in your life today. Like
yeah,
I gotta go home, I gotta eat dinner, feed my cat, feed our bird, and like I got to do those 3 things every day, right? What anybody thinks about me does not affect that, right? The way you
Yeah.
think about me doesn't change the fact that I got to feed my cat. Like he has to,
I actually like that analogy. Yeah.
right? So, I mean, that's how what I deal with people with substance abuse is I always explain like none of it has anything to do with your sobriety. If you think I'm a piece of shit, then I'm a piece of shit. If you think I'm not a piece of shit, then you don't. Either way, it doesn't matter. You're talking about me and not to me, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's 2 different things. Um, it's funny because everybody kind of pushes back on that a lot. Like everybody,
Yeah.
well, you got to care what this person thinks. Not really. Like it doesn't matter what other people think because like I still got to eat dinner tonight. Like it just
Yeah.
doesn't matter, you know? So I like that your glow approach kind of incorporates that.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, that's a huge part of it. And then you find once you are happy with your life, then you don't feel the need to numb out all the time. So it's funny how that works.
yeah. So what's one of the biggest lies that you think people believe about their confidence?
That I feel like people think confidence is the end goal, but how I look at confidence is like, again, like if you're focused on being the best version of yourself, like practicing self respect, practicing self trust, practicing self love, but confidence is the byproduct of that.
Yeah,
So I don't really think confidence is something you teach. It's just part of this journey to becoming a better version of yourself.
I agree with that. Confidence is not something you can teach. And there's a
Yeah,
fine line. There's a very fine line between confidence and ego. And like,
agree.
like I always try to explain to people like confidence is knowing I don't know how to do something, but like together we'll figure it out.
Yeah,
And like the ego is I don't know how to do something, but you're not going to know that I don't know how to do it,
yeah,
right? Because it's
yeah,
not ego is just fear is all it is. So it's that fear of like you might find out I'm this, but the
yeah,
confidence is like I don't fucking know everything, but we'll figure it out, man. I don't know.
yeah,
'Cause but you know, here's the example I always give is a mechanic. I have a friend who's a mechanic, right? And if you ever want to trip down confidence, go to a mechanic. Because if you say to a mechanic, I got in my car, I'm driving down the road, and it goes tink tink boom on the right side, right? That mechanic don't know what the fuck a tink tink boom is, right? But the
yeah.
first thing out of his mouth is gonna be like, bring it in, I'll fix it. Because he has that confidence in his mechanical
Mm,
abilities to fix it, right? So
I like that analogy too.
everybody has that in them.
Yeah,
Like I always break like my groups down into like what are you good at? So you have a confidence right there. So now let's hone that confidence into other areas of your life. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Because
Because that's basically another way of saying self-trust, but I think
yeah,
people relate to the word confidence more.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And everybody has it. Like
Oh, for
whatever
sure.
career field you're in, you're fucking confident in your ability to work. So why? You know what I mean? And I think
Yeah.
the mechanics have the best level of confidence in the world because in all reality, these guys are just like, yeah, bring it in, I'll fix it. They don't know what
You're
the fuck they're doing.
you're so right because yeah, who calls a mechanic who says like, "Oh, I don't know what that is, like take it to
Yeah,
someone else."
yeah. You
Yeah,
know,
no, that's a good analogy.
if I call a mechanic and he's like, I don't know, man, I'm gonna be like, okay, I'll take it somewhere else. I want
Yeah, they
somebody.
would never say that.
Yeah, no, they're like, yeah, bring it in. I got mechanical ability. I can do it. You know.
Yeah.
So I always think that that's the most important. Man, we kind of blew through that. So how do you balance kind of a softness and a strength now?
That's a good question because I used to be hit like very heavily in my masculine, but that comes from like doing and like I used to work in corporate America, so there was like the
Ugh,
rigidity to that. I know, don't even get me
awful.
started. But like how I do the balance now is one of my rules for life, and I teach this to everyone, is do at least one thing a day that brings you joy, because I feel like we get wrapped up in our day-to-day lives of like working and running errands and doing this and doing that. But like we deserve to be happy. And again, it goes back to this childlike being all lit up by life, and we get away from that. So I practice at least one thing a day that brings me joy, that connects me to my light, and that's how I bring softness into my world.
I like it. I like it. So, in your opinion, right? How do the social media filters affect your mental health?
Oh God, you don't want my opinion.
I know that's a
Well,
show all on its own.
yeah. So, but I'll just speak to my personal experience because I do not use filters. I'm 45 years old. I surf every day. So I have wrinkles and skin damage. I get dragged all of the time for my face. And this is how I've reframed it, and this is how I like teach it, because actually I didn't even go through it. The GLOW method is an acronym. So G stands for go back to your childhood, because we all have one core limiting belief that all of our other limiting beliefs and behaviors are spawning off of. So, for example, mine was I didn't deserve to be loved. L stands for light yourself up. So that's like the practice of rekindling that light inside of you that you lost. O is overcoming external validation, which I'll get back to that because it's related to my answer. And then W stands for welcome yourself back home, because it's not about like fixing yourself or changing yourself. It's about coming back to who you really are. But the overcoming external validation is, I've just come to this space where I just, if someone is criticizing my face, I just look at them and think, like, how unhappy in their lives do they have to be able to do that? So I just kind of like send them love and then continue focusing on myself. And I know that's a simplified
I'm
version,
laughing
but
because like I see it all the time on Facebook,
yeah,
like or any social media account, like you'll see where like somebody will be like, "Oh, well, you're this or you're that," and it's like, what the fuck does that got to do with anything?
I
Like, what are
know.
you
And
talking about?
also, they would never say that to that person's face. That's the other
No,
thing that pisses me off.
no.
Yeah.
90% of the people are just keyboard warriors. Mm.
Yeah.
It's it's funny.
But I think that's also an addiction, right? Like there's a phrase, there's two ways, you might have heard of this. There's two ways to have the tallest building in town. You can either build your building taller than everyone else's, or you can build your building and then tear everyone else's down so that yours stands the tallest. And I think
Yep.
people who tear other people down, they're getting like this dopamine hit because it makes you feel better. And I think that's also another form of addiction.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I mean social media all the way around. That's why they have the like button and the hearts and the,
Yep.
you know,
It's all
people
validation.
people are looking for that quick. And I don't know how many times I talk to people um who are telling me how they can't wait to go viral, and I'm like, for what? Like, what are you
I
talking?
know.
It doesn't pay you anything. Like,
No,
I don't know
I
what
think
you
it
think
just
you're gonna
opens you up
get.
to even more criticism.
Yeah, like I don't know what you think you're gonna get. I had somebody argue with me. They're trying to go viral on TikTok, and I'm like, well, what are you gonna get out of it? Like, you,
Yeah.
they don't pay you per the reel. Like, you're not gonna make crazy money. Like, I've had reels go to 84,000 views. Like, it doesn't give me money from it.
Yeah,
You know?
because I've seen people who they have like the one viral that gets millions of
Yeah.
views, and they're like, I didn't get paid from that.
No, no, not at all. I know a couple people that, they're like, yeah, it doesn't pay. I'm like, no shit. Like, that's, people aren't in this for that, man. They're in it for the sponsorships. That's what pays.
Yeah,
Like, a viral
exactly.
clip isn't gonna do nothing, you know? But whatever, what do I know? Yeah, I'm just some jack wagon. So, um, so if somebody is listening right now and they feel hopeless, what do you hope that they hear from you?
Well, several things. One, you are not alone. People don't talk about it, but a lot of people do feel that way if they're not feeling that way now. For instance, I have felt that way. So you're not alone. Two, there is hope for the future. I know it's like, it sounds cliche, and I know it's easy for me to say, but I've already explained. I've been there, and I didn't feel like it was true for me, and it was. You just, when you're in that dark place, you just don't see it. Um, which leads me to number three, which we were talking about before. Just have a safe person that you can go to hold space for you. And not everybody is going to be that person for you. I think you'll know who that is in your life, but just have someone that you can go to and hold space for you when you're in those dark moments, because you don't have to go through it alone, because that makes it even worse when you're going through it alone.
Absolutely. Where, so they can find your book on Amazon, but where can they find you?
Yeah, well, the best way to find out anything about me is my website, which is Inner Glow by Angie. And my book is available on Amazon. The audiobook is available on many different platforms. So all of the consolidated links are on my website. There's information about my coaching program. The two main social media platforms I'm most active on are Instagram and YouTube. So all of my links are on there. But yes, everything that you need to know about me is on Inner Glow by Angie.
We'll put that link in the show notes, which hopefully everybody's listening and not watching YouTube. Uh, I I hope they're listening to the audio. I hate YouTube. They're a bunch of crooks over there. I'm trying to fight it back against YouTube. I don't know why. It's a multi-billion-dollar company. Nobody's listening to my little voice.
Yeah.
But regardless, it's a fight I feel necessary to fight. So anyway, so as always, you guys could have been anywhere in the world today. You chose to be here with us for 51 minutes, and I greatly appreciate that minutes out of your life. Um, thank you for spending your time with me. Um, if not for nothing, I hope that you heard something today to help you. If you did not hear anything that helps you, there are a billion other podcasts in the world. Please go listen to them. I don't care how you get help, as long as you get help. If it's not from me, go listen to somebody else. You don't have to suffer in silence anymore. That's kind of the whole point. So today, if you are feeling like today should be the last, instead of doing that, pick up the phone and call somebody. If you need resources, no matter what resources are, no matter where you are in the world, please reach out to me. I can give you resources. You can hit me on Facebook's Messenger. That's the best way to get in contact with me. Just give me 3 or 4 days, because I don't always respond instantly unless I'm right there watching. Um, but yeah, so do that. If you do like it, send this to all your friends. I appreciate you for listening, and I will catch you next week. So thank you. And thank you for coming on the show.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Absolutely.